I give salam to my people in Bangladesh. Salam to the people of Marrakesh.
So, no matter how skeptical you are, would you accept that for us to even like to do anything, there has to be existence?
Existence of us?
Just existence?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so that's the first premise. There is existence.
Then everything needs to be relative to each other for one to be exist.
Even before we jump to that,
okay.
Just the mere fact that there is existence. So that's premise number one. Premise number two, that there is uniformity, regularity and stability in nature. And what I meant by this, which is what one Oxford professor uses as an example as well, he had a bottle up and he said, what's to stop this bottle from randomly exploding, combusting, floating, disappearing?
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this last time, yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense for us to do science, for us to go home, for us to look around, for us to even watch the news. Otherwise, instead of us having breaking news every hour, there would be breaking news every minute.
Yeah.
Because the Big Bang would have disappeared. This railing that you're leaning against would disappear, grass would disappear, everything would disappear. Sometimes trees would come into existence, sometimes the tree would disappear.
Yeah.
So the mere fact that we have uniformity, regularity and stability, that much we need to agree on in order to not only do science, but in order to live our life.
Sure.
Agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So premise one was existence, premise two was the URS. So therefore, there is an existence that explains this uniformity, regularity and stability of nature. Does that make sense?
Sure. An existence of God?
Just existence.
Existence.
Yeah. So far, what we're going to do, we're going to scaffold on this.
Okay, yeah.
So this is what we did last time. So you accepted that there is an existence that is responsible for the uniformity, regularity and stability of nature. Yeah. So these are logical syllogism, just a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So now we know that there is an existence. Okay, cool. Now, if there is water in this bottle, yeah, can I create a watch?
From the water?
From water?
No.
No. Can I take out a leaf from this water?
No.
No. Why can't I create a watch from the water inside the bottle?
Well, because the watch needs different parts.
It needs different parts.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that if you are making something, then you should have those characteristics yourself as well. Yeah. So if it's making a watch, if a watch is emerging, it should have those component parts already in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, would you agree that there is consciousness, there is will, and there is power when you look around?
Consciousness subjectively, like me.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that, but no, I don't think there is.
You don't believe there is consciousness?
No.
You don't believe that you're conscious?
Well, what does that mean exactly?
Self-aware.
Self-aware of myself? Sure.
Yeah,
But
so that's consciousness.
Yeah.
Bare bones consciousness.
Yeah.
Do you believe there's power? So if I was to push you, you can hold your own weight and you can push back. Do you believe that exists?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe there is will? That we have an element of choice with regards to the acts that we do?
Sure.
Okay. So if these are the three components that are in creation, then the existence that we refer to should also have power, should also have consciousness, and should also have will.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now we've established there is an existence. This existence has consciousness, it has power, and it has will. Now, you could be saying, okay, but that could be other things, no problem. Now, here, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Yeah? Let me make the statement first. You cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. Yeah? So you are dependent on something else, something is dependent on something else.
Yeah.
So eventually, would you agree that this dependency has to stop somewhere? Otherwise, there will be an infinite regress, and we technically, it doesn't make sense for us to exist.
Well, is there an infinite progress?
Infinite regress.
But is there an infinite progress?
Not for the necessary being, yes. For the dependent things, no. Let me illustrate this point. Maybe we're going on a tangent and maybe you can bring me back. Like if I am going to throw this bottle at Jabi, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, for me to dash this bottle at his head, yeah, right in the temple, I ask Dawood, can I do it?
Yeah.
Before I do it. And then Dawood has to ask your permission. You have to ask his permission. And we go infinitely. Will I end up throwing this bottle?
No.
So there has to be an end. There has to be somebody who says yes, then they pass the yes on, yes, 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 and they come to me, then I throw it. Agreed?
Yeah.
So likewise, when it comes to dependent things, this is something which is known as a contingency argument, also known within philosophy. There's many different kind of shoots of it, but very simply, you cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. Otherwise, you and I, we wouldn't be, existing, and we wouldn't be able to converse today. Yeah. So in philosophy, we say, look, infinite regress has to end with something that is necessary. So necessary is something that starts off that chain. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, yeah.
Good. So we've acknowledged and accepted there is an existence. We've given it at least 3 attributes, and we've also acknowledged that it is necessary, i.e. it's the first. Yeah?
Yeah.
And itself, it
Couldn't
has
be in
to...
any other way.
Yeah. Can't be any other way. And of course, it's existing pre-eternally. Like it can't just pop into existence, otherwise it would be dependent on something else. Yeah? So in philosophy, it's like axiom you have in mathematics.
Yeah.
In order for you to do mathematics, you need to have an axiom.
Yeah.
So in order for there to be creation,
The set theory.
yeah, you need to have a necessary being. So this necessary being is the beginning through which others have come. Yeah, so because he is infinite, we are finite. So he chose to create us at a certain time, which indicates that he has will. Because if you are infinite and you've created something in time, then it has to indicate will. And like he said, can't be any other way. The universe, if you can agree that the universe can be any other way, then the universe is dependent.
What do you mean by certain time, though? Like,
So time. So if God is infinite. Yeah.
Okay.
The necessary being is infinite. With us, we were created at a moment, isn't it? Because if we're created and we're linked to time, that's the moment. When it comes to the necessary being, he's been there for eternity. There is no beginning point. So time and space don't necessarily affect him.
okay,
With me so far, yeah?
sure, but I'm confused because time needs to be relative to something else. If there's nothing before, then what is it exactly?
It depends. Like our understanding is very limited,
Yeah.
and it's very reliant upon the current understanding of science that we have. And the current understanding of science that we have tells us that the Big Bang happened, and that was the beginning of time and space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So before the Big Bang, we don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Scientifically, we don't know. Yeah. What was the nature of the space? What was the nature of time? No problem. However, we can agree philosophically, no matter where the science takes us, there has to be a necessary being. He has these characteristics. Yeah. So, for us, whatever I've described so far, we just label it as God.
Yeah.
So in the Quran, our pH test for God is He is one, He is everlasting and eternal, He does not beget nor is He begotten, and there is none like Him.
So what you're saying is because we don't know what exactly happened, we're just going to label it as God.
No,
No, we have sufficient indications
Okay.
to pinpoint and say this is God, because there's again will, intent, and all these things.
even with the Big Bang, bear in mind Big Bang happened at a specific time. Yeah, what we're saying is the argument that we're making transcends Big Bang. Like it doesn't matter whether you have string theory, M theory, Big Bang, or steady state theory. That's irrelevant because our argument still stands.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That it doesn't matter whether it's Big Bang. It doesn't matter if it's steady state. That doesn't change that there is a necessary being,
Yeah.
and that the necessary being has these characteristics. And this is us in relation to the necessary being. Yeah. So, am I good to move on? That now we obviously call that necessary being God. Now you tell me, how do you feel about that? What are you thinking? Go ahead.
Well, I can't really deny it because my knowledge about it is not as good as yours, of course, because you've studied it.
Fair enough.
So I think I need to do a little bit more research to be able to like completely formulate my idea on it. But I do know with religion that I don't think I'll ever believe in religion, because what you're doing is you base your like beginning ideas on logic, and then the rest is just faith, which is the complete opposite of logic.
No problem. We can discuss
Yeah.
that, and we will discuss that. I'll gladly discuss that with you.
Yeah.
But in order to do anything, sometimes, Nick, what you have to understand is, when a person says, I would never believe in this, I would never do that, there's always a reason. And according to my kind of anthropology-based studies, there's always a reason. And that reason won't always be something which is factual or rational. It may sometimes be something which is experiential, or it might even be something that's emotional, that a person's picked up. So what I would say, and I would hope, is stay as open-minded as you can as we go through this. Look,
Sure.
if for example you bring something, I'm willing to reconsider it.
Yeah.
But for you to knock it down without hearing it, I would say don't let anybody decide that for you, Nick. Whether it's society, whether it's your experience, or whether it's your emotions, keep yourself open to it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, we've got a necessary being. Now, we've given it characteristics. Now, this is what you had an issue with last time, and then we can help him with this, which is, how do you then go from God to then human beings, to then books, to then prophets? Yeah? Now, when you look at science, Nick, most of science relies on empiricism. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
However, faith, as Muslims, we don't just rely on empiricism. We'll take empiricism, we'll take philosophy, we'll take rationality, and we'll take ontology. So you see, the four with the one.
Yeah.
But then an offshoot of science, you could say induction and all of this, induction, testimony, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So the thing, I guess what I'm trying to say, Nick, is there will always be a level of faith that will be required. Because if you've seen something, then Islamically, according to Islamic theology, it doesn't make sense for it to be called a test. There is no accountability
Yeah.
because you've seen it. You've seen me now. For somebody to come to you and say, oh, he doesn't exist, you have to think that that's absurd. It doesn't make sense. Like, I've seen him.
Yeah.
And some say, I'm going to test you now, Nick. Oh, does Zishan exist? Yes or no? So test is, I'll give you £1,000. You're like, this is the easiest £1,000. He does exist.
Yeah.
Give you the £1,000.
Yeah.
You see, so conceptually, this is it. There's a test, but Nick, rationality and faith is not only something that's asked of religion, it's something that's asked in life as well. Yeah, you getting up in the morning, you have faith that the sun will rise again. Yeah, you getting up in the morning, or you doing science, you have faith that the electrical systems and the wires will continue flowing with electricity because copper continues to conduct electricity.
Well, because it's happened before, so I know that it should happen again.
It should happen again.
It would maybe happen again. I can't prove that it will.
Exactly.
Like if I wake up and my phone is just dead, I don't know if it will or won't.
Exactly. That's the problem with induction.
Okay.
That's the problem that science has. Yeah? That technically speaking, if you just rely on science, you are going to struggle to prove based upon four things. Number one, science falls prey to the replication crisis.
Yes.
Yeah? You cannot replicate the scientific experiments.
Yeah.
Amgen did this, and there's a biotech firm, and they noticed that only 11% was able to be replicated. So one, you got the replication crisis. The other one, you have induction. Yeah, induction, which we just discussed. Third one is interpretation of results. Like, how am I interpreting this result? Am I using linear or Bayesian probability? Am I using the linear kind of correlation? When you did this at school, all the x's are pointing right direction, so we draw a line of best fit. And lastly, paradigm shifts. Yeah. So the point that I'm trying to say is, in order for you and I to do science, we have to accept induction. And induction, you can't prove it using science. 90%, I would say, it went up from before. I said about 85%. It's gone up now. Of science depends on testimony.
Yes.
Most of the science that you will read or you will hear, it's exactly that. You're hearing or reading from a book, you're hearing from a professor, you're watching a documentary. Yes, the person may be well-known, high level, but you're taking their word for it. Like, I don't know if you've seen this movie called Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
That guy was brilliant. He would just walk in to a class, and the way he'd convince the other person that he was the teacher was convincing.
Yeah.
So even your teacher technically relies on testimony, and I would even argue, Nick, your mother, being your mother, solely relies on testimony. I'll prove that to you.
Okay.
Have you ever done a DNA test to prove that your mother's your mother?
No.
But you accept it, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Based upon? She said it. Testimony, and the people around also agree as well.
And your experience. And that's something also that science doesn't factor in. Experiential engagement in the everyday world, This is something that the anti-positivists, and these are people who are against empiricism, themselves being very scientific themselves, they have problems with the things that you've mentioned. That empiricism or even like all these things have limitations. And you know what is so beautiful? They mirror the human condition so well. Like testimony, it's still a thing, even among scientists who love to be so objective. Sorry for
No, go for it whenever you want.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So, point that I'm trying to say, Nick, is for us to just live our life, there is always and there will always be a level of faith, but the thing is, there's two levels of faith. Yeah, and there's different degrees. Just like I can say I have money when I have 1p. You can say you have money when it's £5. You can say you have money and you have £100,000.
Yeah.
We all have money.
Yeah.
I only have 1p. So even with faith, this is why I said the inference to the best explanation. As a human being, what explanation makes the most rational sense? And that should be a good starting point for us. If we say, look, this is all based upon faith, then technically your whole life will fall apart, because you can't take science, you can't take testimony. You're going to go home and you're going to start asking your mom for a DNA test. Your science.
Well, if I do take a DNA test, how could I trust it?
Exactly. That's a very good point.
It could be contaminated.
Who's telling you the result of the DNA test? And has he been hired by
could
your
it be
mom?
altered? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
So unless you do it yourself. And who's taught you how to do it? Maybe they've taught you, that number is the opposite of the number it should be. So you can't necessarily win. So I see like you're looking around, is this something that's landing? Is this something that you're like, damn, a lot of the stuff relies on testimony.
Sure.
Good. So again, it's just going in line with faith. Yeah, we do rely on faith, but some things make more sense than other things, and that's where we have the rational capability. Yeah, like I can make a prediction. You can make a prediction. You're a sensible person, and you've come with a few brothers. You're going to leave the park from that direction and not that direction.
Yeah.
I can make that inference
to
the most rational, because I'm thinking he's with a few brothers, maybe they're going to eat, they're going to have to travel, going to a park in an hour's time doesn't make sense. Jumping over, it's irrational. Yeah? Haven't got any indication that they have to go somewhere, so that is the logical way for them to exit the park.
Probability.
Yeah, probability. Yeah. So the inference to the best probability. Or possibility. So we come to this point. When you see, Nick, every single religion claiming that there is a holy book, every single religion claiming that there is a prophet, whether it's a religion that's coming from nowadays or whether it's a bit, in the past, or whether it's someone 1400 years ago or 2000, 3000 years ago, regardless.
Yeah.
So our common sense suggests that they can't all just be picking up something random and just going with it.
Sure.
There has to be some form of truth that we can derive from there. But then the question would be, how would I determine which
one?
holy book? Yeah, which holy book is correct? Now, I'm going to put this to you, Nick, and I'm going to let you lead me now. You're going to be my leader.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Nick, you tell me, what criteria would you have for a book that you can say this? Okay, this book, for it to be from God, has to have this criteria.
Proof and evidence that stuff in there is correct. Where it came from. And yeah, that's proof and evidence is the big one for me.
Evidence.
Yeah.
Let's break down evidence. What sort of evidence?
Well, like, I need to not be skeptical that it's true, right? That's basically it. I need to know as much as possible for certain that it's
okay.
true.
So what you've said is subjective.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that I can see to be true, but we need to think objectively. So give me something objectively that anybody that you can tell this criteria to somebody and be like, that's the sort of criteria you need to be looking for. If you get stuck, I can help you out, but I'd rather that it came from you. But
Well,
don't feel pressure.
objectively, I don't really know, because everyone subjectively has their own beliefs and ideas of what needs to be in the
That's true.
criteria.
That's actually true.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
But what do you think about this as an objective criteria?
Sure.
If somebody is claiming that their book is from God, that they have the answers to the universe and everything,
Yeah.
then surely that book can't be changed. There has to be a way that it's preserved. Would you say
Yeah.
that that's a criteria?
Sure.
Okay. What if I was to say to you that out of the Abrahamic faiths and the ancient religions, Islam is the only religion
Yeah.
that makes that claim?
Yeah.
That gives us 1 point, yeah? So we're up by 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So in terms of preservation, you're probably familiar with some of them. If you want, I can go over some of them. It's up to you.
Go over some of
So how the Quran is preserved.
Go over them.
Okay, I'll just bullet point it.
Sure.
Yeah, so one way it's preserved is manuscript evidence. Yeah, that we can find manuscripts that are dated to the time of the quote-unquote founder, although we don't believe that Prophet Muhammad is a founder. So it's dated to the time of the Prophet, and it's located in an objective place in the world. Not a Muslim country, not under Muslims, objective place. And that is in this country.
Yeah, you told me this last
Told you last time. Yeah, so that's the manuscript that's in the University of Birmingham. Yeah, dated to the time of the Prophet. Number 1, good, done. Number 2, it's orally. Yeah, so orally, how has it been produced? Yeah, sorry, preserved. And that is through memorization. That Islam is the only, and Muslims are the only ones that make the claim that we memorize the Quran en masse. Approximately, we have 11 million people that have memorized the Quran. You might be thinking, whoa, maybe you're using some Sherlock Holmes mind palace, technique, and you're using all these. No. These are minimum 6-year-old kids that are memorizing the Quran, and that's how the Quran is being preserved. Yeah, in fact, we just finished Ramadan, and in Ramadan, the Quran was recited, and there was a little clip going around of a little kid correcting an imam that was twice his age. So this is I can say something, I'll make a mistake right now, he'd be able to correct me.
Over 1,000 times if there have been 1,000 Ramadans, it has been an ongoing process of engaging with the Quran orally. And that's very powerful, I would
With
say.
regards to other books, they were copied. Mistakes came in, then somebody else copied, and then they copied the mistake and they introduced their own mistakes, and like that. That process is called parablepsis and homoutilitan.
It's like Chinese whispers,
Not Chinese whispers. Those two techniques are, if two lines end with the same word, sometimes when you're really tired, you skip a line because both of them end with the
same word. Yeah.
So because of that, these are only 2 ways that the Quran has been preserved. Yeah, that we can prove. The third is the chain of narration, but I'll delve into that when I talk about the Prophet, peace be upon him. Yeah, so that's the preservation of the Quran. Number 2 you said, okay, with regards to what it mentions in there. Yeah. So when it comes to what's mentioned in there, now the question that you had when you were on the side was you were saying in terms of science. Now, as Muslims, we don't believe that the science that's mentioned in the Quran is the science, because remember we've just discussed that science by its nature continuously changes. There was a time where, again, in the Quran it mentions that the earth is moving, it's orbiting, but the scientists and the people at that time said, look at you backwards people, you're saying that the Quran, that the sun is orbiting? It's not orbiting. However, later we came to
The sun is orbiting.
Yeah, the sun is in an orbit. Yes, the sun is actually orbiting the Milky Way galaxy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's alongside the planets and the moons
its own
and the
axis.
comets. Yeah, it has its own orbit. So we didn't know that before. So science would say, that's it, that's fine. People at the time of Isaac Newton, they said, that's it. Bernard, I forgot his name over there as well, the one that Dawkins mentions. Bernard something. He's a philosopher, the atheist philosopher that he likes. Probably Bernard something, I don't know. So he
Bernard
said,
Lewis. No, Bernard Lewis. Sorry.
No. Bernard Russell.
Bernard Russell, of course.
Bernard Russell, yeah. So he said, look, we've discovered everything when it comes to science and physics. Time to move on. That was Newtonian physics. Then Einstein came along with his hair parting and his eccentric look, and he brought relativity, and it threw Newtonian physics out of the water.
Yeah.
And then now they're saying quantum mechanics is ready to throw Einstein
out the water. Yeah.
The point that I'm trying to say is it's constantly changing. So when we use science, Nick, to measure the Quran, I would say it's unfair. It's unfair. And the reason being it's unfair is because think about it. If the Quran was only filled with facts that you were supposed to find out 1400 years after, what about the people at that time when they don't have electron microscopes and they don't have Hubble telescopes and they don't know what red shift is and all this sort of stuff? How are you going to explain to a Bedouin what red shift is? For him, red shift is when someone cuts him and blood goes in that direction instead of that direction. Do you see?
Yeah.
So it's about practicality as well. So when it comes to preservation of the Quran, when it comes to the rationality behind the Quran, it stands head and shoulders above the rest. Now I'm welcoming you to give me a counter to that with regards to what I've said, so we can kind of solidify this.
Well, you said that you couldn't tell Bedouins like the scientific stuff that happened.
Say that again?
You said with the red shift,
Yes.
it took an example. You couldn't tell them
Yes.
like science. Sorry.
Yeah, you can't explain to a Bedouin 1400 years ago what red shift is.
Yeah.
I think I know what point you were going to make. And correct me, I'll try and make it for you. And if I have made it, tell me you've made it. If you haven't, say no.
So I can put it into words.
Yeah, no problem, that's fine. So, some people think that whenever the Quran talks about science, it's unambiguous. This is false. Anytime the Quran talks about science, it is ambiguous. Yeah? Why is it ambiguous? So it can be understood by people of all times. It can be understood by people 1400 years ago, a Bedouin in a village, and it can be understood by a scientific professor that's there with his with his electron microscope looking into the.
So you're saying it can be universally understood?
Yes, because that's a claim that we make as Muslims, that this is something that is universal. It's something that is till the end of time, and it's something that is for everybody.